Hi, everybody. Welcome to Radio Row here in downtown Indianapolis, 2026. Matt Taylor here. Colts content coming from the Combine, brought to you by Ascension St. Vincent. Joining us now, Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, the lead draft analyst there. You see him and hear him on the Move the Sticks podcast. Daniel, welcome back to Indianapolis for the Combine. Where does the Combine rank for you in terms of professional and personal enjoyment when it comes to your draft process?
Well, if you can combine, almost all your friends in this world and then football, it's a pretty good combination. It's equal parts convention and then a real useful scouting opportunity. So I've always enjoyed this going back. I think my first one was before I even got hired when I was working for the Ravens. So my first combine, I think, was 2002. So it's been a lot. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's changed a little bit.
Yeah, a few more people here compared to then.
I remember walking down the hallway and seeing it was John Clayton and maybe it might have been Chris Mortensen. That was the media that was there for the Combine. That was it.
Well, let's get right into it for the Colts. Obviously a disappointing finish to the season, but they started so great, 8-2, but then they lost their last 7 games of the year. So from a big picture standpoint for them going into this draft, who are the Colts for you? Are they more like the 8-2 team that went big for the Sauce Gardner trade, or are they the team that lost their last 7 games to really good teams when they were banged up?
I think you get the quarterback back, if you can figure out a way to get Daniel Jones and the contract done there, get him, healthy and back in the mix. And it sounds like Alec Pierce, hopefully he's not going anywhere either. I think it's more that early version of the Colts that we saw, which is, a team that's got some real physicality, obviously, elite running back to go along with it.
Sure.
I think that's our identity. I don't think that was fake. I don't think there was anything about that where you're sitting there watching that team on tape and going, this is fluky or fake. It felt very real.
What was it about Daniel Jones that seemed to really work on tape when it came to meshing with Shane Steichen in this offense?
Well, I think a couple things. I think, number one, just playing with conviction. I think Shane did a great job of infusing him with some confidence. So take all the X's and O's, to the side. I just thought you saw somebody who played just, trust in his eyes. I always talk about trust your eyes, trust your guys, like play fast, playing on time. I thought Daniel Jones did a wonderful job of that. And I give Shane a lot of credit because that ability is not different. That's the same ability he's always had. But I think he just infused him with so much confidence and to see it and let it rip.
I know we're going to get into the draft here in just a second, but for your eyes and your money, what's the biggest thing holding the Colts back to really breaking through in 2026? They missed the playoffs now 5 years in a row. In 4 of those 5 years, they've won at least 8 games, right? So it's a good roster. It's right there. How can they break through?
Well, you think about a team that's not finishing well, and whether that's games or seasons.
Sure.
To me, it's having closers. And for me, pass rushers in the National Football League are closers. So getting, a little bit better in that room specifically, more talent, more depth. And it's not even just, one impact guy here or there. They got some good players in that front, but it's having waves. We've seen over the last 2 years the teams win the Super Bowl. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles did not have a 10-sack player, but they had 8 guys that they rolled through. This last year, Seattle did not have a 10-sack player. They had waves of guys. So it's just continued to pour into that depth. They've got some free agents there that could be exiting. So to replenish that group up front would be a good place to start.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you just hit the nail right in the head there. 3 defensive ends who are all free agents, Kwity Paye and Tyquan Lewis and Samson Ebukam, but they don't have that first-round pick, right? They gave that up to Sauce Gardner. So who are some guys that you're targeting in the second round or third round that might be there? Because I know you're really high on the depth of this draft class at defensive end. So who might be some guys that the Colts could target to maybe add some supplemental depth to that pass rush for next season?
Well, I'm all about efficiency. So you can just take one plane trip to Ann Arbor, Michigan. They got 2 guys there, and Barham and Moore, who are both day 2 type pass rushers. So that'd be a good place to start. Guys who play, have got real twitch and juice and burst coming off the edge. Akis from Illinois is another one who plays really, really hard. Going to be in that day 2 conversation. I love our Mason Thomas. We'll see. I think he's got a chance to get into 1. He could potentially get into the back of 1, but he's, there's an outside shot. He could be there in the second round. So it's a good group of guys.
Like I said, you've been doing this for a long time. A couple of years ago, JT Tuimoloau picked up by the Colts, actually, in fact, last year. And then 2 years ago, it's Laiatu Latu.
Yeah.
Where are you with those guys in terms of their development at that position? Because as of right now, they're one of the very few guys that are still under contract for this team at that position?
Well, JT was just blocked, so he didn't get a chance to get as
personnel
much work
in front of him.
Yeah, so I'm anxious to see him get a full opportunity and see what he can do. I think there's a chance for him to be a good player. Latu's shown you the flashes of what he's capable of. So I think with those two guys, their best football is definitely ahead of them. I think this is, not, okay, we've got to upgrade over this one or that one. It's just you need more. You just need more waves of guys. And I think those guys take maybe a little bit more of a rep share, at least JT getting more of a rep share than what he's had, and then having more guys to roll through with him.
All right, we talked about defensive end. What other position groups of need are you maybe targeting for the Colts to emphasize in this draft?
Well, I think continue to beef up that receiver group. We'll see what happens, Pittman long-term,
Sure.
What are the plans there? Alec Pierce, is this a one-year thing, or is this something that they're able to come to terms and get a longer-term deal done? There's good pieces there, but I think you can continue to add more firepower. I think that's out there. You can look along the interior of the offensive line is another direction that you could go. So, there's opportunities for them on the offensive side of the ball. Just continue to give Daniel Jones a better shot at it.
No question about it. So at the end of the season, Chris Ballard says, hey, defensively, we might need to make some tweaks. We might need to prioritize youth and speed.
Yeah.
Where is that within this defense for the Colts? Is that first level? Is it second level? We know in the back end they spent some money there last offseason and prioritized that with Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward. Then at the deadline, here comes Sauce Gardner. But what specifically within this defense might need to be tweaked for the Colts?
Well, to me, I look at the front seven, and I think I almost include the nickel corner in there as well, and they've had good nickel corner play there with the Colts over the last 15 years. It seems like they've always had guys that can roll through that spot. But to me, that's where the speed is, especially when you get to that second level of the defense. Guys who can really run, flow, from the nickel to the two off-the-ball linebackers. That's a good place to go.
And Jermaine Pratt, too, he's a free agent as well at the linebacker spot. What about linebacker depth in this draft class? Is that a position worthy of being drafted that high for the Colts, maybe round 2, round 3?
I think day 2 is a sweet spot. You look at Kyle Lewis from Pitt, who can really, really run. He's going to go somewhere on day number 2. I'm curious to see what some of these guys run. Like Heineke from Oklahoma is a good player. He was a lacrosse player at Ohio State. What does he end up running? But he's a good football player. Rodriguez, the same thing. Like, how are those guys going to, really, really run? So interesting. The combine is big for corners. I always said that's the most important position in terms of what we get out of this week. Just seeing how those guys run, it's the most important, position in terms of speed being a requirement. But I think off-the-ball linebackers right there with it.
Do you say that because that's the position where you get the most information on in the combine process? Or is that, I guess my question is the combine process for corners, the workouts that they do you learn more from those than, let's say, a safety?
I think it's and look, you can be a zone-based team and you can get away with guys who don't necessarily run in a couple places. But most people, there's going to be a time and a place where you got to line up and you got to play, and you got to play man-to-man, and you got to be able to run.
I always do it or you can't.
I always use the analogy, look, if you're a wide receiver and you run 4.6, well, the corner covering you runs 4.6. So as a wide receiver, okay, I can still manage my way around that.
Sure.
If I'm a corner and run 4.6 and he runs 4.3, we're not in a shaking hands relationship.
Right.
That's a problem.
Also within this defense, Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner, those are two guys still getting it done, right?
Yeah.
Defoe's coming off a little bit of the neck, but the idea there is he's going to be ready to go for, hopefully training camp. We'll see. But, these are still two outstanding players at their positions in the NFL, but they're north of 30. What about defensive tackle in this draft? If the Colts want to look there, where and who, knowing they don't have the first-round pick?
Yeah, look, I love Lee Hunter. I'm probably higher on Lee Hunter than a lot of folks. Most teams have him as a second-round player. I have him as like my 27th player somewhere in there. But we've seen defensive tackles drift a little bit in the draft at times, so that would be my home run pick if somehow he were to be there when they pick in the second round. Then there's a whole host of guys I like in the third-round range. Like Dominique Orange from Iowa State's a good player. Rayshon Benny from Michigan is a good player. There's a nice clump of those guys in that group.
All right, since we're talking Colts, we know about Josh Downs playing wide receiver for the Colts.
We got another one.
What about brother Caleb at Ohio State? Just how impactful do you think this guy is going to be at the next level early on as a rookie?
Yeah, I think he's just, to me, he's just a steady, rock steady player who is one of the most reliable, dependable tacklers that you're going to see as a force player. I don't think he's got the freakiest, height, weight, speed combination that you're going to see, that we've seen from some other guys over the last few years. But super instinctive, super steady, super reliable, and the makeup is as good on him as any player I can ever remember. And that's from sources, coaches at Alabama, coaches at Ohio State, teammates at both places. Like one of my favorite stories, I was talking with one of his teammates from Alabama, and I said, tell me about Downs. I know you're around him for a little bit. And he said, well, he came in for the bowl game. He signs the high schooler, as these guys do now, and they come in the spring. So he hasn't even officially enrolled into school. He's not eligible to play in the bowl game, but he's going to practice with the team. And he said, we were riding from the bus back to the hotel after practice, and I sat next to him, and he's got his defensive game plan out for the bowl game, studying it the entire ride back. He's like, you can't play in this game, right? But he was using that as a learning opportunity.
It's that
all
important.
Business. It is very important to him.
No question about it. I do want to double back to the Colts not having that first-round pick.
Yeah.
And at the time, I don't know how you felt, but I personally love the trade for Sauce Gardner. I love the player they got, the premium position that Sauce plays. But it also sent a message to the Colts like, we're going for it.
It's
we're
time.
8-2, right? We haven't made the playoffs at that point, 4 straight years. I just love the message that it sent. But I think, some Colts fans look at it and say, that's a lot to give up for one player, plus he got hurt, so the immediate dividends weren't right there for Sauce Gardner. Plus the Colts missed out on the playoffs. But what I don't want Colts fans to do is wake up Friday morning of draft weekend after the Thursday night first round. They say, yeah, we could have got this guy or this guy was available. But they also wake up knowing, hey, Sauce Gardner's coming back, and he's going to be on our team under contract for the next couple of years. Just talk Colts fans off the ledge that, like, trading for a premium player at a premium spot that has proven Sunday experience is probably, in my opinion, the right thing to do over any prospect that could have been available for the Colts at a position of need in the first round.
Well, Sauce Gardner's better than any corner in this draft. So
there you
go.
Start
there. He'll be the number one corner in this draft class. He's got rare physical traits. It's hard to find corners that are that big and that long. His makeup's off the charts. He's a great teammate and a great dude. So you're comfortable with paying him, what you're paying him. So there's a lot of things to love about Sauce Gardner. Yes, it was expensive cost in terms of the draft picks, but I would just say if you look at any team that's won a Super Bowl, there's bold moves along the way. You don't get there. There's 32 teams in a competitive league with competitive balance. You do the same thing all 32 teams do, you're not going to get to the top. You've got to take your shots. And so I don't ever fault anybody for doing that.
And he's better now than any prospect in the first round.
I have a higher grade on Sauce Gardner coming into the draft than I do in anybody in this draft class.
There you go. All right, lastly, I know you got to run. You got a schedule to keep. Give me your top 3 things about Indianapolis hosting the Combine.
Oh, gosh. I love the fact that I can stay indoors.
Yep.
I don't have to put a jacket on even if it's freezing outside.
28 and flurrying right now as we speak.
That's fantastic. Tons of food options.
Yep.
Great restaurants down here. And then I would say ththird and the most underrated is everybody's so nice.
Yeah.
It's very hospitable.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
We don't have the cheerleader convention. We don't have the plumbing convention. I'm anxious to see who's coming this week, but looking forward to that.
So someone is.
Yes.
For sure. Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.